Hey everybody, Garcia here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the latest expansion to Bali here, which is going to let us take some new actions, give us some new abilities. That is Village of Tani. Like I said, this expansion is going to give the players some new possibilities. There is now a new action you can take instead of playing a card in front of you, which is the typical action. The only action, in fact, in the original game. This gives you something else you can do, and in fact, something you have to do. I do want to mention before I go on that I'm not going to be teaching you how this game works. I'm just looking at what the expansion does to change this. But I have reviewed this game already. If it looks nice to you, you haven't heard of it, you're curious about it, you want to know more before you watch the expansion, go check this video out, okay? You can see the review for that. There's another expansion, you can see the review for that. But if you're caught up, you want to know what this is all about, you are in the right place. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. So here's what you're getting in the expansion. You are going to get this new sideboard. You're going to get this figure that you'll place there on the board. These 4 tokens that go in this quadrant. Each player gets a number of huts, as you can see here, based on the number of players. So in a 3-player game, each player will get 4, as you see here. But if you were playing a 2-player game, each color gets 6 huts. You are also going to get 11 new cards made up mostly of new farmers, 2 of each, as well as a few other cards. And you're going to shuffle these right into the deck and you are ready to begin once you've set this up. The game rules are going to stay exactly the same except for the changes introduced by the expansion. That is, if my hand contains these cards, let's say, I could on my turn play one. I will take one from over here somewhere. I will trigger the one revealed. I will gather some stone, it'll be the next player's go. Except, there's now a new option at step 2, play a card. So instead of having played this card, I could, for my step 2, build one of these huts. And that's going to be done by discarding a card. I'll go ahead and discard a farmer. You must discard one out of the game. Based on the kind you are discarding, you are going to build a hut in that section of this board. So I'm getting rid of this one, and I'm going to build a hut in this area over here. I'm going to build one right now in the cheapest section, which denotes there a single card. This one's also 1, then 2, then 3 cards. So I'll build one there. Now, what does that card entail? That card is these offerings that I must give up from my own supply. So in that case, if I build one there, I have to discard 1 offering. It does not have to be peppers. It can be whatever I want to. So I would take one from my own supply, I would put it back over here, and then I get the bonus, the benefit of building the hut there. In this case, 4 stone, so I put 4 stone in my supply. And then after that, I'll still draw a card because I still need to replenish my hand. I just got rid of a farmer. And then still trigger a scoring, all of that stuff. So it just changes the card play phase. These different sections are as follows. Like I said, 4 stone. This one over here, for the bananas, you are going to take one of these 4 tiles and trigger the associated scoring. You are going to get 1 victory point for every stonemason if you choose this one. 1 victory point for every priest, if you choose this one. You're going to get 1 victory point for every banana and pepper farmers, and 1 victory point for every peanut and rice farmers. And again, this is in your current display. So you would do it, you would score your victory points, you then put this aside out of the game, and that's it. These 2 down here are the same benefit. When you apply to one of these, when you build a hut in there, so let's say our blue friend here did that, they're going to gain this figure here, and every time there is a priest scoring, this figure gives that player controlling it 2 victory points. Whether they have any of those priests or not, it doesn't matter, you still get 2 victory points. And at the end of the game, whoever has it will get an additional 2 victory points. Of course, if somebody else shows up later and builds in one of those 2 areas, they will take it away from the player and they'll keep it until it's taken away from them. So that's it for that board. Now, one big thing that must be mentioned is that in the game now, by the end of the entirety of it, if you have not built all of your huts, you are immediately eliminated from the game and you cannot possibly win. So you must build your 3 or 4 or 6 huts depending on the number of players. They have to be built. If you don't get them all out, so say green couldn't quite pull it off and get this last one out, they could not possibly win. It'll be between blue and yellow. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So small twist, a few new cards in the deck, and a new ability now that'll give you some bonus, but also force you to do something, or you are eliminated from the scoring completely. Let's go ahead and go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of this one. All right, there you go. Now, before I get into this and I break it down as to what I think of it, who I would recommend it for, I do want to sort of give you a little backstory as to what I think of this, what I think of the first expansion. So Bali itself, I currently rate a 6.5 out of 10. I like it okay. It's a game that comes out every now and then. When it does, I enjoy it, generally 2-player. But I find the core game, the base game here, to be too short and to be the information in it to be too trackable. I don't like that. There's not enough, it's not opaque enough what the players are doing in the game. So those are some of my issues with it, especially with more players than that sort of, you know, the deck is too small. Game feels like it runs out before you're ready for it to run out. That's really pronounced. The first expansion, I thought I rated higher than I did this. I thought it was a great expansion. Lots of positive reinforcement, more hidden information, less trackable, more ways to make victory points. A really great expansion. You need it. Now this expansion, I think, goes the other way a bit, and I'm going to rate this a little lower than I am the original, the base game, okay? Because I think a lot of the reinforcement here tends to not be as exciting, and then some of it is negative reinforcement. So let's break it down. I'm going to try not to talk too much about these things because I don't really have too much to say about them. So the theme, they don't even give you a blurb in the rule book. It's an extension of the original theme. It's fine, doesn't bother me, also doesn't add anything. The aesthetics here are okay. There's not a lot of components. They match what's in the original game. HUDs are nice, little wooden bits. It's okay. The replay value here, kind of down the middle for me, again, because I find the abilities that are given to you through the HUD placement to not be that exciting. They're not that fun. You can manipulate them in interesting ways sometimes, especially if you get to them early, and therein is really like that's really where the game's at. The idea of, do you go there early, you only have to give up so many cards when you go there, and then you get whatever the benefit is, or do you go there much later? The banana section of the board is really interesting. I like that one because if you go there early, it'll cost you less, but you're not going to get nearly as interesting a benefit. That's the section that feels like playing chicken. That's the most interesting part of that little board by far. The game arc, like I said, I think the game now has this slight feeling of panic if players all sort of get into a groupthink of delaying doing that stuff, of delaying putting out the HUDs. So near the end of the game, you start to panic. You start to realize, I might not have enough time to get all my huts built, and I might not, might wreck my score getting all those huts built. It's interesting. It's a different feel. I don't know if everybody's gonna like that feel, and it might not go that way. The huts might get built out in a nice, even pace, and then it's not a problem that you have to build them. But the fact that you have to build them or you lose the game is a brand new idea to this game. And it is, again, it has a feeling of sort of negative reinforcement. In the original expansion, playing one of the new cards gave you 7 points. Gave you some hidden, gave you like ways to manipulate some stuff that was hidden from the other players. It felt good to do it. In this one, sometimes when you deploy one of those HUDs, a lot of the times when you deploy the HUDs, that doesn't feel good. You just know you have to do it, or you lose the entire game. You're not even, qualified for scoring. So there is that. The last two things I think are fine, okay? The ease of play here is no problem. The game's straightforward. It's well explained. Iconography's good. It all makes sense. It's neat now that you have another possibility with not just play a card, but get rid of one and trigger the building of the huts. I like that the deck is slightly larger now. Again, the original expansion did that, but I'm assuming here you don't have that, okay? This adds a few cards to the deck. It's a little... I like that flow a little bit more. And then lastly, tactics and strategy and luck. I like the tactics that this brings to the table. Again, they're a little mean. They're a little punishing, maybe. They don't always feel good to take, it doesn't always feel good to take those actions, but you have to. And once you've played a few times, you will discover that you can manipulate the different sections to really capitalize on why you went there and when you do it and why you did it. Like, for example, having the statue in front of you that gives you extra points. If you do it at just the right time, right before you trigger scoring. If you do it while other players might not go there again for a while, so you can keep it for a long part of the game. That's all things you can try to gauge, try to manipulate, and that feels good. So overall, like I said, original game, 6.5. The expansion, I rate at least a 7, 7.5, the first one. This gets a 6. It's all right. I would not dissuade you from getting it. I would not say, don't get this, it's bad. It's not bad. It's just not as good as the first one. And it shows. And you have to be okay with an expansion that has that ultimatum built into it. Do this or die. If you're okay with that, if you enjoy that kind of pressure, then you'll enjoy this just fine. This is one that, for me personally, I'm not going to be putting in every time I play. I might try it. I might like splash it in to mix up the feeling of the game. But the original expansion, the Temple of Shiva, that's in every time. That fixes the game for me. This one just changes the flavor a little bit. So there you go. Village of Tani, 6 out of 10 from me. Thanks everybody for checking this out. If you haven't checked this out, you might want to. And I will see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.